Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another top 10 spring list. This is my niche edition, so stay tuned for that. If you like top 10 lists, fragrance reviews, clone comparisons, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So, it is that time of year. Weather's getting warmer. Fragrances tend to be a little bit, or the fragrances people choose tend to be a little bit fresher, a little bit lighter. Those heavier fragrances don't work as much in the heat, but I have chosen 10 recommendations. I actually have two honorable mentions that I think are worth mentioning. I put them as honorable mentions because I don't really love them, but I know a lot of people do really enjoy them, and I think they're worth mentioning if you haven't checked them out, because you also might love them. The first one actually is something I recently checked out, and this is Eggy by Nishane. Now, I haven't really given it enough wearing to really fully evaluate it. I'm going off my first impression and then also smelling the dry down. I do find it's a little bit of a linear fragrance, which is not bad, especially if you like the fragrance. It's a really nice, fresh, uplifting, it is mostly a green fragrance. I know in the first impression I did mention a little bit of an aquaticness, which I sometimes get, but it is a very fresh, very greenish kind of fragrance. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get a lot of the mint. I think that was one of the things I was really looking forward to. And for me, it wasn't that present. So I think that's one of the things that, for me personally, drew back on the fragrance. But I think it is a nice performer, very strong and long-lasting. And of course, it does have a pretty likable scent profile. So I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that one. The next one is Musk Deer. A lot of people think about zoologist fragrances and they think, you know, they're really challenging or they're difficult to pull off. And Musk Deer, I think, is in some ways kind of, at least it seems to be the direction that zoologists is going more in these days, which is unique yet wearable fragrances and a little bit more mass appealing. And Musk Deer is, for the most part, just a very nice, clean, musky fragrance. It does have some floral components. It does have an almost light kind of freshness to it that makes it very wearable, and it's one that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy, and it's not at all challenging. So if you're looking for that clean, musky type of scent profile, Musk Deer is a nice one to check out. And you know, I gotta play with it a little bit more. It is kind of also on that situation where I need to test it out a little bit more to really get the full feel for it, but I do feel like it's good for the season, and it's a nice wearable fragrance from Zoologist. Now into the top 10. First one, Dolce Amalfi. I think I said that right. This is a Xerjoff fragrance, and this one I think is actually better suited for the slightly colder days. Now it does have a sort of fresh, bright opening. As I mentioned, you know, it starts off with this really nice bubblegummy vibe that reminds me of like bubblegum ice cream from Baskin Robbins. One of the reasons I really enjoy it. And it, you know, sifts into a nice citrusy kind of fragrance. And, you know, as this one dries down, and the reason why I think it's a lot better for the a little bit colder days in spring or in the evening is that it becomes quite resinous in the dry down. Very thick, resinous. Doesn't have the same freshness or citrusy elements that the opening has, which definitely means it's one that, you know, can either transition from day to night depending on when you're wearing it, or from warmer to colder, or it's going to be nice in general for those somewhat chillier days where it's not really warm. Really enjoy that one. Very complex scent. It's a nice journey, so I personally don't mind if a fragrance is linear if I enjoy it. I think that's great. But it's also nice on the other side of the coin when you get something that has a lot of transitions, a lot of development. And this fragrance, honestly, is one of the nicest fragrance that has a very nice development to it. And it's, in my opinion, I think one of the best Xerjoff fragrances available. So do check that one out if you haven't. I don't hear tons of people talking about it, but I know it does get to a little bit of talk, and it's definitely one worth checking out. Next one, Viking. Now this is one that I've often said if I was going to have a signature scent that it would be this. I probably would pick something different right now, and actually I think I would pick the fragrance that's number 1 on this list. I'll get to it in a bit. Still really do enjoy this one, and I think it is one that can shine easily most of the year. I wouldn't really wear this on a hot day, This is fall, winter, spring. Works very well. Nice, easy daily wear. This one is actually very fresh in the opening. Very fresh and spicy. It has a lot of this fiery kind of image, but there's also mint in this, and the mint gives it a really nice kind of cooling effect. So you get this kind of nice clash between spicy, fiery, and fresh, cooling, which is a really nice vibe. And it does dry down into a really nice masculine rose. To me, this is a great modern take on the barbershop genre. So, of course, you have classic fragrances that sort of fit that mold really, really well. This is a little bit more of a modern take on that kind of DNA. Really enjoy this one. It's probably my favorite Creed. I mean, the only one that's, I would say, is close to this one for me personally is Arolfa. But Arolfa doesn't have very good performance, whereas this one easily 6 to 8 hours. So I think the fact that scent-wise I feel about the same about them, the fact that this one performs significantly better, I think is a strong reason to why I actually prefer it just a little bit. The next one is one I actually recently tried out, and that is Bohemian Lime by Goldfield and Banks. So this one was talked a lot about as like a Lime Ventus, and I don't personally really get the comparison. I mean, to me, there's no smokiness. There's no. It is a little bit. I think I get like a hint of a woodiness, but not really. To me, this is mostly a lime bomb. And what's nice is I think it's like it's called finger lime or something like that. So it does smell like lime, but it does have a bit of a different profile to it, making it a sort of unique lime-smelling fragrance that I think is one that is definitely worth checking out, especially if you enjoy lime. Now, it is a little bit linear, and I found that, you know, sometimes this can be a downfall because it's the same. It's a very, very strong lime fragrance, and it's really, really nice, but at some point it's just like, that's too much lime. A little bit. That being said, I do actually enjoy the fragrance. And it is, unlike, you know, Pacific Rock Moss, which gets talked about also a lot from the house, this one performs really well. So Pacific Rock Moss, also nice smelling, but you can easily go 20 sprays and people won't even barely notice it. It won't bother anyone. That can be either a good thing or a bad thing, but you can overspray that one like crazy. Bohemian Lime, there's no need to really do that. You can go like a normal spray routine, 5 sprays, and it will perform really well. So I do like that about it. It does have a little bit of woodiness in the dry down as well, so it is nice, but I don't know why people say Lime Ventus. To me, that doesn't fit the profile. So the next one, this is again for one of the more transitional days where it's a little bit cooler, or maybe even an evening, and that's Slow Dive by Hiram Green. Now, this to me is actually my favorite honey fragrance, and it's just so well done. So it starts off actually reminding me a lot like Bee, if you smelled that. So there is, especially right in the opening, a really strong sort of waxy beeswax kind of a vibe. But where I find that Bee goes into more of a sort of floral honey fragrance, this one definitely goes off to smelling more like a sweet gourmandish fragrance. Also why I think it is better for a cooler day, it does get reasonably sweet, and so I think it's one that can easily become a little bit cloying or overbearing if it's hot out. But I mean, even for a night out, I think it would be actually a really nice fragrance because it is a little bit sensual. It's playful, it's fun, and it is very nice and a good sweet fragrance. So I do really enjoy that one as well. Now the next one, I was a little surprised to like this one, and I actually grabbed a few more samples, or another sample from the house that sounded really good, and that is Rock Rose by Cloud Christian. So, I mean, as I've said before when I talk about this brand, this is a brand that's overwhelmingly kind of just been a disappointment in many ways to me. It isn't a brand that I really love, or and I don't really like the presentation that much. The fragrances I haven't really been drawn to. But this one is just really good. It is such a nice, versatile spring, even summer fragrance. Very fresh, breezy. It does have this violet note, if I recall. And it is violet. That it's very fresh. It feels like it has the type of violet that smells very much like a nice, cool breeze. Now, the Rock Rose, as I understand, is actually labdanum. I mean, I sometimes get a little bit of a rosy vibe, but it's so faint, and I'm probably just, I sometimes feel like I'm just imagining it because of the name. It's definitely not something that comes off like smelling like rose. And so if you do, I mean, if you don't like rose, you're not going to really get that with this one. It has also this really nice kind of bubblegummy sweet vibe, which to me did give it a bit of a sort of designer quality, if you want to think about it that way. But it is a very, very mass appealing fragrance, in my opinion. Very easy to wear, very versatile, you know, fresh, a little bit of sweetness, uplifting, very, very nice. And it's nice too because it's not a really sort of citrus heavy, fresh fragrance. So it does do things a little bit different. Manages to be sweet, but not overly sweet, and still maintain that nice, fresh, versatile kind of a vibe. So Clive Christian, like I said, I did get another one of theirs. It's called Green Apple or something. I forget what it's called. It's some apple fragrance, and I do like apple quite a bit in fragrances, so I am going to be looking forward to trying that one out. We'll be doing a full review probably, unless I hate it, then I might not do a full review of it, but that'll be coming up soon. And so, next on the list, Enclave. This is a new release from Amouage, and for me right now, if I was to buy an Amouage fragrance, that would be it. Enclave is another really nice, versatile fragrance from Amouage. So I put it in the same kind of category as Reflection Man, even though it smells very, very different. I put it in that category because I feel like it's a very, very easy to wear, versatile fragrance, much like Reflection Man is. But don't get the scent profiles confused. You certainly won't as soon as you smell it. But it is this really nice, fresh, has this nice minty note that I really love in it. And it does have a bit of a booziness. And in fact, what I find is it also has this Amber Extreme that in the dry down, the Amber Extreme mixes with that booziness, and I still can pick that up in the dry down. So it has this fresh green, almost bluey kind of vibe with that mintiness, almost like a shower jelly thing without actually smelling like shower gel, but it does kind of give me the impression of those types of fragrances with a bit of booziness, mintiness, and it transitions into an ambery, boozy dry down, which is also really enjoyable. Now I will say, you know, quick honorable mention, Meander, if you like sandalwood, is probably nice for a spring day as well. Really nice sandalwood dry down on that one. I also do really enjoy it, but I think I just liked Enclave more, and that's definitely why I'm putting it on this list. And the next one, now that we are on the top 4, I hope I did my math right, top 4, Oolong Cha by Nishane. This one is so far from me the best tea fragrance that I have ever smelled, and I think definitely tea fragrances are, spring is a good time for that, because tea fragrances are not, generally speaking, overly pronounced or very strong. I find them to be a lot more laid back, a lot more relaxed, and you know, for like a t-shirt and jeans kind of day in spring, I think it's something that works really, really well. Now you could potentially wear it in summer as well, but again, like I said, if you want to try a really, really nice tea fragrance, see what people love about tea fragrances, I am going to recommend you Oolong Cha. Really, really well done. Fantastic tea fragrance. And if I buy a Nishane again, that will definitely be it. So I thought it might be eggy, but personally, Oolong Cha is just a million times better, in my opinion. Okay, top 3. These are the best of the best. Some surprises on here, but the first one, perhaps no surprise, is Sedley by Parfums de Marly. This one also has mint in it, so you might get a hint. Personally, I like mint a lot. I think it's really good for spring, summer. And this one is just, to me, it's one of the more unique Parfums de Marly fragrances. I know some people said it smells like Boss Bottle Infinity or something, and I do remember smelling that one. I did only briefly smell it, but I do remember smelling that one in an airport. And from my memory anyways, this one doesn't smell anything like it. Not to me anyways. I'd have to do an actual side-by-side comparison, but this is the 2020 batch. Very long-lasting, very, very strong. I mean, especially for a fresh fragrance. I've never had a fresh fragrance that is so beast mode. This one has insane sillage that I'll even smell myself. So this is one of these fragrances you can definitely smell on yourself. At least I can, which I found quite surprising because a lot of fragrances I do go nose blind to. But very fresh, minty, A little bit of a greenness. Well, actually, it's more of a bluey kind of fragrance, but not as blue as something like Percival from Parfums de Marly. It does have a nice woody dry down as well. And that nice fresh mintiness lasts a very, very long time on this one. It does have a nice fizzy, bubbly opening as well, which is really, really nice. I would say the fizziness, at least for me, 2-3 hours in that range, maybe even a little bit longer that it actually lasts, which is also impressive because I find a lot of those fizzy fragrances just don't, that sort of top note doesn't last that long. Whatever they did to fix the performance problems on the 2019 batch, they did it well with this one. So stunning. To me, I can't really pick out any differences between the reformulation. They say it's the same formulation, but just macerated longer. Maybe that's the case, but it does perform stellar and very long lasting, very strong. Next one, newcomer, and perhaps one of my favorite from Navitus, and that's Rêve Nuit. I was very, very surprised by this fragrance. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. It has this like, so it opens up, kind of reminding me a little bit of Barbershop. I think it has neroli in it. And it's weird because it doesn't have lavender, but it does have, I believe, neroli. And you get that prickly sort of freshness that pretty quickly changes into this really nice, creamy citrus vibe. Now, I don't know what, it's like a citrus cream. That's the note. I don't know what they actually use, but something about it makes me think of lime. But it doesn't come across as super limey, but there's something in that sort of creamy vibe that does that for me, and I really, really like that creamy vibe. It's fairly unique in that respect, and it is one that performs really, really nice. So starts off fresh, starts turning creamier and creamier. That citrus creamy vibe stays around for actually a very, very long time. Several hours, in fact. Well, okay, the citrus creaminess is probably like 3-4 hours. And then, of course, it goes into the dry down, and, you know, it is a very enjoyable fragrance. I think it's one, I think it's designed, you know, to be more of a date night fragrance, and I think it can do that with that sort of sensual creaminess. You know, it's done fairly well. But I'm going to get into the last one, because this video is getting kind of long. I actually haven't put this one on a spring list before, but I've just appreciated it more and more, and that is Straight to Heaven. This is the normal Straight to Heaven. I do own the Extreme. I think if I bought another Kilian, it would probably be Straight to Heaven. And the thing is that it started to grow on me in a lot of ways, and I think I might even like it more than the Extreme. It's much more versatile, definitely good for the spring still, because it does have something in that opening that is boozy but not overly so, very slightly sweet, and it's almost a little bit like like sometimes when you spill alcohol on yourself, if you've ever done that, like rum or something, there is this sort of very clean, fresh kind of vibe that you get from the alcohol. And it has that here. It's not overly fresh and clean, but it does have that kind of a little bit breezy kind of vibe. And I find the thing with this one is it dries down into a bit of a somewhat fresh woody accord with the booziness and the woodiness. And that really separates it from the Extreme, which is much boozier and much sweeter and much less of the woodiness. And I think the biggest thing that made me appreciate this more is the longer I've had it sitting around, so I've had it sitting in this decant for a long time, the better the performance has gotten. So when I first tried this out, performance horrendous, maybe 4 hours. But now that it's been sitting around for a while, this one, 8 hours easy. And so, I mean, if you do have Straight to Heaven, and you find that it doesn't perform well, you could try letting it sit there for a little while and see what happens with it and see how it develops. At least for me, I found that it has gotten better with time in terms of performance and longevity. Anyways, I'm going to end the video there. Leave a comment down below. What are you looking forward to wearing this spring in the niche realm? Is there any spring fragrances you're looking to try out? Let me know. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.